When Living Single first hit TV screens in the 1990s, it became a trailblazer for Black representation in sitcoms, bringing together laughs, friendship, and real-life experiences in a way few shows had before. At the heart of it all was Queen Latifah, who not only starred in the series but also shaped much of its identity. Decades later, she's finally opened up about a surprising truth that most fans of Living Single never realized, a behind-the-scenes revelation that changes how we look back on the iconic show.
Sleigh bells ring, are you listening? In the lane, the beautiful night.
Khadijah James was smart, ambitious, and funny, a young woman running her own magazine while navigating friendships, love, and life in New York City. For many viewers, Khadijah became a symbol of independence and strength, and Queen Latifah's presence gave the show a unique energy that set it apart from other sitcoms of the time. The series was built around 6 friends in their 20s trying to figure out life, love, and careers while living in a Brooklyn brownstone in Prospect Heights. What made it special was how relatable it felt. Everyone knew someone like these characters, and together they created a perfect mix of personalities that made the show both funny and real. The story centered on 2 apartments inside the same brownstone. In one apartment lived 3 independent women. There was Khadijah, Queen Latifah, the hardworking editor holding everything together. Her cousin and receptionist Sinclair James, played by Kim Coles, was sweet, bubbly, and always full of quirky humor. Then came Regine Hunter, played by Kim Fields, the glamorous, fashion-obsessed roommate who loved the finer things in life and often brought drama and laughs with her bold personality. Their apartment was full of energy, laughter, and those heart-to-heart moments only close friends can share. Across the hall were the guys. Overton Wakefield Jones, played by John Henton, was the building's lovable handyman, down-to-earth, kind, and always ready with a bit of old-school charm. His best friend since childhood was Kyle Barker, played by T.C. Carson, a sharp-tongued, stylish stockbroker who brought sophistication and sarcasm everywhere he went. The men often found themselves caught up in the women's world, leading to funny, awkward, and sometimes heartfelt moments. Kyle loved to debate, especially when it came to one particular woman, Max. That's where Erica Alexander came in, playing Maxine Max Shaw. Max was Khadijah's best friend and former college roommate from Howard University. Even though she didn't technically live in the brownstone, she spent so much time there she may as well have had her own set of keys. Max was a tough-as-nails attorney, quick with her words, sharp in every argument, and never afraid to speak her mind. She had a way of strolling into the apartment, raiding the fridge, and dishing out her unfiltered opinions, often stealing the scene with her wit and humor. But Max wasn't just funny. She was strong-willed and fearless, and that's what made her such a powerful part of the group. She brought a different energy, one that pushed her friends to see things in new ways. And of course, her fiery love-hate relationship with Kyle was one of the most entertaining storylines on the show. The two argued constantly, throwing clever insults back and forth, but underneath all that tension was undeniable chemistry. Eventually, their banter turned into romance, creating one of TV's most memorable on-again, off-again couples of the 90s. Living Single show was so loved and so well put together that it ended up inspiring another TV series you've definitely heard of, Friends. Both shows had the same recipe: 6 young adults trying to figure out love, careers, and life while living in New York City. The only big difference? Living Single focused on a group of Black friends in Brooklyn, while Friends followed a group of white friends in Manhattan. The similarities were impossible to ignore. In fact, even former NBC President Warren Littlefield admitted that he wished he had picked up Living Single for NBC when he had the chance. And then, strangely enough, just a year later, Friends premiered on NBC and skyrocketed to mainstream success. But here's the thing, Living Single came first. It was groundbreaking, it was funny, it was relatable, and it gave audiences a new kind of representation on TV that wasn't being shown at the time. Many fans still believe that without Living Single, there would have never been a Friends. Even though Living Single was a huge success on screen, things behind the scenes weren't always smooth. One of the most shocking and painful moments came when T.C. Carson, who played the sharp-tongued but lovable Kyle Barker, was suddenly fired from the show. Kyle was more than just a character who made audiences laugh. Behind the camera, T.C. Carson often stood up for the entire cast. He wasn't afraid to speak out about problems with the show, whether it was about pay equality or the way certain storylines were being handled. He wanted fairness, and he wasn't shy about letting the producers know. But standing up for what's right came at a cost. Despite being told that his job was safe, Carson was blindsided when Warner Brothers Television, the production company, decided to let him go. To make it worse, they didn't even have the decency to tell him directly. He only found out about his firing through his lawyer. According to Carson, the move wasn't just about getting rid of him. It was about sending a loud message to the rest of the cast. Don't rock the boat. His departure showed just how much control the producers wanted to keep, and it served as a warning that anyone who challenged them could face the same fate. Fans were stunned when Kyle disappeared from the show, and many believed that Living Single was never quite the same without him. His absence left a noticeable gap in the group's chemistry, especially his love-hate romance with Maxine, played by Erica Alexander, which had become one of the show's funniest and most beloved storylines. But Kyle's firing wasn't the only problem happening behind the scenes. Queen Latifah also revealed that she and other cast members faced a lot of pressure from TV executives about their bodies, especially about losing weight. The pressure was so heavy that at one point, the executives even threatened to put cruel jokes about Queen Latifah's weight into the scripts if she didn't do what they wanted. Imagine that, being told that the show you loved working on might turn into a tool to embarrass you in front of millions of viewers. The good part is that the cast didn't let that happen. They stood up for one another like family. When Kim Cole shared with Erica Alexander that the executives wanted to sneak in those humiliating jokes, Erica didn't hesitate for a second. She said, "I won't read them." That quick response showed just how much respect and love the cast had for each other. This moment proved that Living Single wasn't just a comedy about friends, it was also about real-life loyalty. Behind the cameras, the actors were protecting one another from unfair treatment. It wasn't always easy, but their unity made the show even more powerful. Queen Latifah may have been the bright, confident star of Living Single, but off-screen, her life wasn't always as smooth as it looked. She has carried pain and tragedy that many fans never even realized while watching her light up the screen as Khadija James. One of the hardest moments in her life came in 1992, just before Living Single even began. Her older brother, Lancelot Jr., was killed in a terrible motorcycle accident. What made it even more heartbreaking was that the motorcycle had been a gift from Latifah herself. She was devastated, and even years later, she admitted in a 2006 interview that she still wore the key to that very motorcycle around her neck. If you look closely while watching episodes of Living Single, you can actually see the necklace. It wasn't just jewelry. It was her way of keeping her brother's memory alive while she was making people laugh on screen. Then, only a few years later in 1995, Latifah faced another traumatic experience. She was the victim of a violent carjacking, and during the attack, her boyfriend, Sean Moon, was shot. It was another heavy blow for someone already carrying the pain of losing her brother. Most fans never knew that behind her bold, funny character, Queen Latifah was showing up to work with so much grief on her shoulders. Back in 1996, Queen Latifah was arrested and charged with possession of substance and carrying a loaded handgun. For many, it was shocking to see the young star of Living Single suddenly facing legal trouble. She later opened up about how that period in her life was full of stress and challenges, and how she was trying to navigate the pressures of fame at such a young age. Unfortunately, her legal troubles didn't end there. In 2002, she was arrested again in Los Angeles County for driving under the influence. This time, the consequences were serious. She was convicted and placed on 3 years of probation. Latifah later admitted that these hard moments were part of her journey of growth, teaching her valuable lessons about responsibility, choices, and how to handle the pressures of being in the spotlight. But the hardest heartbreak of all came years later, in her personal life. On March 21, 2018, Queen Latifah lost her mother, Rita Owens, to heart failure. Rita had been battling the condition since 2004, and through it all, Latifah stood by her side, caring for her and cherishing every moment. The two were incredibly close, and losing her mother was one of the most painful chapters in Latifah's life. She often speaks about how her mother's strength and love shaped her into the woman she is today. For years, Queen Latifah kept her personal life locked away from the spotlight, choosing to let her work and talent speak louder than any rumors. In interviews, she made it clear that she wasn't interested in answering questions about her love life. Back in 2008, when asked about the constant speculation around her sexuality, she told the New York Times, "I don't feel like I need to share my personal life, and I don't care if people think I'm gay or not." That statement summed up her strength. She wasn't going to let the world pressure her into sharing anything she wasn't ready to. But everything changed at the 2021 BET Awards. Latifah was honored with the Lifetime Achievement Award, a moment that celebrated her decades-long career as a rapper, actress, and trailblazer in entertainment. As she stood on stage, many fans expected her usual grace and humility, but what she said shocked and touched millions. For the first time ever, Queen Latifah publicly acknowledged her longtime partner, choreographer Ebony Nichols, and their son, Rebel. It was a deeply personal and historic moment because Latifah had never spoken so openly about her family before. She ended her speech with two powerful words, "Happy Pride." That short but meaningful phrase wasn't just about her. It was a message to fans everywhere who may have felt unseen or pressured to hide who they are. It showed that even someone as iconic as Queen Latifah had taken her own time to live freely and on her terms. This revelation made fans admire her even more. Not only was she one of the most successful women in Hollywood, but she also proved that she was brave enough to embrace her truth when she was ready, not when the world demanded it. And in true Queen Latifah fashion, she did it with class, love, and pride. Before Queen Latifah ever stepped onto our TV screens as the sharp, funny, and confident Khadijah James in Living Single, she was already making waves in music. Latifah started her career in hip-hop when she was just a teenager. At only 19 years old, she dropped her debut album All Hail the Queen in 1989, a bold title that let everyone know she was coming to reign. The album carried the powerful anthem Ladies First, a song that quickly became a statement of women's strength and unity in a male-dominated hip-hop world. Latifah wasn't just rapping, she was educating, uplifting, and inspiring. Then, in 1993, she released her single, Unity. This wasn't just another rap track, it was a Grammy-winning anthem that called out disrespect toward women, demanded equality, and encouraged people to treat each other better. The same year she dropped Unity, she also landed her breakout TV role on Living Single. It was as if the world was seeing the two sides of Latifah at once, the fierce rapper who could take on anyone with her words, and the warm, relatable sitcom star who felt like your best friend on screen. But with success also came controversy. The mid-1990s saw Queen Latifah caught up in one of hip-hop's infamous rivalries. Rapper Foxy Brown started making bold claims in 1996, suggesting that Latifah had been checking her out at music events and questioning Latifah's sexuality during radio interviews. Foxy didn't stop there. She went so far as to release a diss track titled 10% Diss, taking direct shots at the Queen. Now, Latifah was never one to let anyone disrespect her without responding. She fired back with her own diss record, named Callan. It was her way of reminding the industry and Foxy that she wasn't just a TV star or a friendly face. She was still a battle-tested MC who could hold her ground. A big part of the media quickly crowned Queen Latifah the clear winner of the feud with Foxy Brown. Hip-hop magazine Ego Trip even declared that Latifah had sealed her victory with her diss track, named Callan Part 2, saying she proved that the ladies still first, a clever nod to her earlier classic, Ladies First from 1990. The message was clear. Latifah wasn't just a rapper, she was a force, and no one could push her around in the male-dominated world of hip-hop. But here's what makes the story even more powerful. Time has a way of softening even the fiercest rivalries. By the year 2000, Just a few years after the tension, Latifah and Foxy Brown decided to call a truce. And they didn't just settle things quietly behind the scenes, they made their reconciliation public. To prove the beef was over, Foxy Brown appeared on the Queen Latifah show, Latifah's own talk show, and performed her song, Nah Nah Be Like. It was a symbolic moment, two powerful women in hip-hop showing that respect could replace rivalry. What's interesting is that this wasn't just about music. It was also about growth, maturity, and the ability to move past misunderstandings in the spotlight. For fans, it was a relief to see two strong women, who had once traded barbs in songs and interviews, come together and leave the drama behind. When people talk about hip-hop legends, Queen Latifah's name always comes up, and for good reason. She wasn't just another rapper trying to break into the industry in the late 1980s, she was a trailblazer. While many credit her as one of the greatest female rappers of all time, her real power came from the fact that she was able to break barriers that few women in hip-hop had ever crossed before. Pitchfork once called her the most recognizable female rapper of hip-hop's golden era, and music writer Steve Huey explained it best when he said, "Latifah was certainly not the first female rapper, but she was the first to become a bona fide star." And that stardom wasn't just limited to music. Queen Latifah has collected an impressive shelf of awards throughout her career. She's won a Grammy for her music, an Emmy for her work on television, a Golden Globe, 3 Screen Actors Guild Awards, and 2 NAACP Image Awards. On top of that, she's even been nominated for an Academy Award, something very few rappers can say. But perhaps one of her most historic milestones came in 2006, when Queen Latifah became the first hip-hop artist ever to receive a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. That moment was bigger than her. It was proof that hip-hop, a genre that was once dismissed as just a passing fad, had produced stars worthy of standing alongside Hollywood icons. Of course, Latifah's career has never been one-dimensional. She stepped out of the recording booth and onto television screens with the Queen Latifah Show, her very own talk show, where she connected with audiences on a personal level. And when it comes to acting, she's been unstoppable. Over the years, she's starred in hit films like Girls Trip, 2017, The Tiger Rising, 2022, and Hustle, 2022, proving she can do comedy, drama, and everything in between. Today, Queen Latifah continues to reinvent herself. She's not only the star, but also the executive producer of CBS's action-packed series The Equalizer. The show has been praised for putting a strong, confident black woman at the center of a role that's traditionally been played by men. It's a perfect example of what Queen Latifah has done her whole career: take spaces where women weren't expected to lead, and then completely own them. From rapper to actress, from talk show host to producer, Queen Latifah has shown that talent has no limits. She's living proof that you can create your own lane, dominate it, and inspire others to do the same.